Welcome, guys, to the first of many episodes of 90 Minutes Strong Live. So I am Pedro Heiser, and I'm here with Austin today. Austin, what's up?
How you doing, Pedro? Glad to be here. Finally getting able to do this with you. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Yeah. So pretty much what it is, if you guys just tune in, you guys don't really know a lot of what's going on. We are gonna be the soccer guys of the Five Reasons Sports Network. I've come from a long background of covering soccer in many aspects of the game, from lower division to second division to MLS, and Austin knows a lot of Inter Miami, a lot of it, and so it's great to finally join in with Austin and be able to bring to you guys a show slash podcast where you guys can check out information on a team and things like that. If you guys don't understand what 90 Minutes Strong is, 90 Minutes Strong has been around for about 10 years, but we finally joined up with Five Reasons Network, and now we are able to provide a lot more services to you guys. So that's kind of exciting. So, Austin, before we even start, just introduce yourself to everybody and let's go from there.
So I'm Austin Roblard. I've been working with Five Reasons for almost a year now. I've been, we did the Black and Pink show earlier, and then, with all of the coronavirus stuff going on, soccer took a step back. So It's been a while since I've been able to put out any written content, or me and Alejandro were able to do any shows or anything like that. But this is a new revamped system. Really glad to have Pedro on with us, and, getting back to talking about Inter Miami is awesome, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it like we did the first time around. So, yeah.
That's awesome. And just to kick it off right there, MLS is back. It's the only thing anybody was talking about for the last couple of days, maybe a week now, if you want to be technical. MLS is back. We're going to have the quote unquote Disney Cup, the Mickey Mouse Cup, where all the teams are going to come down to Orlando and work from there and have a tournament. So, Robbie, explain to us a little bit more about that tournament as we, so people understand what's going on.
Okay, so basically MLS came out with this World Cup style tournament that they wanted to introduce for the MLS coming back. There were 6 groups, and they split the groups up into Western Conference and Eastern Conference. And in Group A, C, and F are the Eastern Conference teams, and then So and then the other groups are the Western Conference teams. The first initial group is Group A, which Inter Miami were drawn in, and it has 6 teams. The other groups have 4, and it's just having to do with how the numbers line up in MLS. With there only being 26 teams, they're also moving Nashville over to the Eastern Conference, which was a big thing in order to make the numbers work. So each team will have 3 games in the group stage, and those 3 games will also be counted towards the 2020 regular season standings, which is big.
Huge. It's huge.
It's very big. So these games really, really matter. This tournament really matters. And each of the top two teams in each group will move on to a 16-team knockout tournament. And the top 4 third-place winners will also move on to the tournament as well. So that'll round out the 16 teams. And the winner of the 16-team knockout tournament is going to be granted a $1.1 million prize, and also I guess they called it additional player bonuses.
Yeah.
Really weird. But the main thing here is that the winner of the tournament gets the CONCACAF Champions League spot.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
I think to me, the coolest part about this whole thing is that it's 69 games, 34 days, World Cup style. We're going to have so much soccer going on. It's not going to be, it's going to be empty, obviously, because no fans are allowed to go in there. But you're going to be able to see these. It's just nonstop MLS action. And for people that don't really follow MLS as a lot yet, this is your opportunity. Jump on, pick a team, probably a team from South Florida. Inter Miami is out there.
Yes, please.
And pick a team and follow that team along. And it's exciting. It's literally like having a mini World Cup in the United States a few years before the actual World Cup comes here.
That's very true. Yeah, it's definitely a good they're calling it the made-for-TV tournament, and I think it's going to attract a lot of fans. We saw that with the Bundesliga coming back.
Yeah.
A bunch of people watching the Bundesliga.
Dude, I watched Bundesliga. I don't even follow German soccer. And I was like,
exactly.
I woke up early, grabbed my little phone. I was like, oh, let's watch sports.
So this is going to be before the NBA comes back, before the NFL is here. So I think that a
It's
lot
the
of
only
Americans,
sport. It's the only sport in the market right now.
yeah, for sure, it'll be the first one back, and that's huge for
besides like
MLS.
NASCAR and stuff. But like, and that's a huge thing because everyone says, "Oh, MLS doesn't take off because it's competing with the NBA playoffs," and then it doesn't take off because it's competing with the start of NFL season. There's nothing right now.
Nothing.
Like this is their prime moment to shine. This is their moment to go out there and say, "Hey, this is MLS, and this is what we do." And please watch us because we want to have money, because that's literally what they're
Yeah,
going to do. There's not there. If you like sports, you're going to watch soccer because it's still a
absolutely.
sport. And so MLS now has this incredible market to be able to go in there and have people that were not fans before actually go in, tune in, and at least watch one game or two games a day.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I think from July 11th or July 8th when it starts to, I think, like 12 days after that, there's a game every single day.
Yeah.
Like just like World Cup, the group stage, there's a
Mhm.
game every single day. So you're not going to be missing out on anything. Live sports for a month is amazing. So this is definitely a time for the MLS to showcase their product and what they can do, and hopefully grow the league as they've been trying to do for the past couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's see what they can do. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
it's interesting because when they first announced this whole thing, I was kind of skeptical. I'm like, how's this going to work? And they're going to have all the teams in one place, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
they want to have they want to have sports come back, and what better way to do it than to bring out MLS and bring them into Disney, which makes a lot of sense. And because they're using Disney anyways for the world for the All-Star games for the skills challenge, so why not just use them again and bring this together? I don't know how it's going to work though, like when it comes to players and things like that. Like how are they going to stay safe, stay distant, even though they're going to be playing soccer? Like,
yeah.
I
think they're going to do. I know the testing protocols are pretty heavily going to be enforced. I think it's going to be at least every day or every game day or every other day, whatever they said. It's going to be pretty tough when it comes to testing, and they're gonna put their foot down on that. I think that they just need to limit all the players' contact from the outside world, I guess, and just keep MLS all together in one spot. And I think that's what they were going to do. We saw Bill Hamid from DC United kind of upset with it because he was saying, he posted on his Instagram story saying that, hello, like, we are grown men, we are adults, we're able to handle ourselves and conduct ourselves and be safe and follow, social distancing guidelines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the MLS doesn't also, they have to make sure that they don't ruin their product by having somebody get tested positive throughout the entire tournament.
Oh, that's gonna look horrible on them.
Yeah, it would look terrible.
Yeah. Oh, dude, if this term is going on and then in a couple of days later, like someone gets the virus, this shuts the whole thing down.
And especially with rising cases in Florida too, they've got to be extra careful.
Yeah, and then we're back to start one,
Exactly.
where I remember vividly. It's crazy that it's almost the end of June, but I remember vividly in March. I was like, nah, I got an article. One of my friends sent me an article and said, oh, no, March Madness is going to be a closed door. I'm like, no, it's not. Shut up. And then I get home that night and it's like, oh, the Utah Jazz stopped playing a game.
Oh my God.
NBA closes. And I go, wait, what do you mean? What do you mean the NBA closes? Like,
I think that was the same night that Inter Miami did the open house, like open training tournament for season ticket holders to go into the stadium.
Probably.
And I was there. And the game was 2 days away or 3 days away. And I go home that night and see what Rudy Gobert did at the Utah and everything. And I was like, oh my God, we're really not going to play on Saturday. I was really upset because it's supposed to be our home opener, but safety comes first for sure.
No, for sure. But it's interesting to see how MLS is going to handle having all this attention, because they usually don't, like I mentioned earlier, they don't have this attention at all. They're never usually the first people that like, you're not going to watch an MLS game if you're not a soccer fan. But now that you're kind of quote unquote stuck having to watch a soccer game, you're gonna watch a soccer game. Like I know people who are watching ESPN's like cornhole tournament because there's just that much need of sports. And I mean, I'm not being biased, but soccer is a little more exciting than cornhole.
Yeah, for sure. People are looking for anything just to keep them entertained, have some kind of like distraction from life, I guess, as a whole. And MLS is going to provide this product, and we hope they do it in the right ways. And the tournament seems to be turning out to be in great shape, and we hope it's going to be a lot of fun. But we'll see. Don Garber, hopefully, he's done it right.
And I don't doubt it. MLS is very good at the show part of the business. So I don't doubt at all that Don Garber and their staff like has a plan in place and knows what's going to happen and knows everything, because they're very good at that. Like one thing you can't take away from MLS is how good they are when it comes to putting on a show. And so I see this working out great. But going back to what we're here for, Inter Miami was randomly selected to play Orlando City game 1 of the tournament. Both Miami and Orlando are part of Group A. Group A is the only group that has 4 teams and not 3.
No, 6 instead of 4.
6 teams instead of 4.
Yeah.
There you go. That's like Austin's here. They have 6 teams instead of 4. But apparently this is the part that doesn't make sense to me, but what it is. You don't play all the teams. And so that's why
that's the problem with the numbering of MLS and how they've decided to use a World Cup style format. Because you can't have an even number of groups with an even number of teams, they had to shove a bunch of teams into one group. And of course, Inter Miami is going to be put in that group just because that's our look. But in that group, we'll read the names, is going to be Inter Miami, Orlando City, Nashville, Philly, New York City, and Chicago. Those are the 6 teams. Mm-hmm. We are only going to play Orlando, which is the first initial game, which is going to be played on July 8th, the only game that day. And then it'll be Chicago and Philly. We won't have a chance to play Nashville or New York City. But without playing them, we still need to do better on points than them without getting that head-to-head, and we need to come top 2 in order to move on. So I think it's a little unfair not having a group of 4 and having us only play 3 games. And being in that group is not the luckiest thing. I think it puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage because we have no idea how the other results are going to go, and we don't have a chance to gain points on them directly and things like that. So if we do our job, of course, we'll move on. But if it comes down to something really tiny and it's a point differential or like a small goal differential and we didn't have a chance to play one of those teams we could have beaten, you'll look down on it for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the team itself and the teams and the matchups that they're playing, they're more than capable of beating an Orlando City, a Chicago Fire, and a Philadelphia Union. I mean, Orlando City isn't very good. I can say that I've covered Orlando City in the past, so like they haven't had the best luck when it comes to being very good in MLS. The Union, they're the Union, and the Fire, so they have a good chance of winning out. I would think.
I hope. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about.
But at the same time, you can't really like expect it. But I mean, it's interesting. But before we get to that part of the show, I think it's important to go back a little bit and kind of see how Inter Miami has done a lot in the first 2 games they played. Obviously, they were months and months ago, but it's important to go back and see how well they played, and then from there move into what can we expect from them next month.
For sure.
But Austin is awesome. He went to both games.
I did.
You were in LA.
Mm-hmm.
How was that experience? How do you do, like, taking the fan side apart? Looking at it in a view of someone that's talking about the team. How do they play, and what could they could have done better? So
to draw LAFC in the first game of your entire club history, the reigning Supporters Shield champions with the MLS MVP, a guy who scored 34 goals in the year before, that's tough luck. And to only lose 1-0 and have the amount of chances that we had, it was a really positive performance. It did look a little shaky, and you can expect that. The team only had 2 months together to prepare. And Diego Alonso had no idea who he knew who some of the players were, but Paul McDonough was bringing people in from MLS, and Diego Alonso wasn't really familiar with that market yet. So having only 2 months to prepare for a game,
he clearly doesn't have a lot of experience knowing these MLS players. But I'm gonna talk about that.
Okay, so a game at this magnitude is huge, and to only lose 1-0 and to actually have real glimpses of positivity, especially going forward on the ball, was great. There was a little bit of chemistry there, and you love to see that. The goal that LAFC scored, I mean, it was just Vela magic. It really was.
It was pure luck. It's pure luck.
There was a tackle, and Nico Fiegel came back on Vela, made a great tackle, but then Roman Torres deflected the tackle, I guess, and the ball just stayed at his feet, and he chipped Robles. And I mean, it was a great goal. I mean, it's a great finish, quality finish. But it was a little unlucky to concede that, and throughout the game, it was pretty unlucky for us not to ever score.
Yeah,
there were so many chances for us in that game,
for sure,
which was big. And our midfield played really well as well. I think the Ulloa and Trapp midfield is really good and solid. Mm-hmm. So that was good. And then moving on to DC.
Well, before we even get there, Pizarro had a really cool quote after the game. It's a very good quote, and I agree with him 100%. He says, "We played a great game. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish our chances, but in the end, it was a great game. The man of the match for LAFC was our goalkeeper, and I think that says a lot about our game. For a team that hasn't played a lot together, hasn't been able to mesh yet as a club, to go out there, just like you said, go to LAFC and put on a decent performance that they could have clearly at least come back home with a 1 point. It's huge.
And not to mention the LAFC, I think fans have a big deal to do with outcomes of games.
Yeah.
At LAFC in that stadium, those people are die hard. And, Inter Miami supporters were there, and we filled up a whole entire section, and we were going, but it wasn't even close to the amount of LAFC fans that were there. And obviously, and their supporter section just 90 minutes straight raining on the chant.
Someone said 90 minutes strong.
There you go. That was good. But yeah, I mean, those supporters had a big deal to do with that game, and to be away in your first ever game against an opponent like that, losing only 1-0 with a chance to actually come away with points, positive performance.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about the player of the match of that game. I think we can both agree. I haven't asked you this, but I think we can both agree that the man of the match was Robles.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about his how important he is to the team, and how we can expect him to grow as a player. Not as a grow as a player, but more like since he's the veteran of the team, he has the MLS experience. How he can move that into the rest of the team and helping them grow.
So yeah, I mean, Luis Robles is a name that all MLS fans know. I think he was more than solid for us. He put on saves that were unbelievable. And for a guy at his age to be making athletic moves like that was huge. He's loud. He was yelling at the back. You could see that. He was trying to keep everybody intact.
Yeah.
He's a leader that you definitely want to have on the team. And that's why I was so excited to bring him in when they announced him, because that's the keeper that you want on an expansion team. That's the keeper that you can trust, is solid, who will make the saves, and also has really good leadership qualities in order to keep the back line together as well as the entire team. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the same, and I feel the same way about a lot of the players that we mentioned a little bit about how the coach doesn't really know a lot of MLS. And he has a great group of guys,
absolutely,
to grow from. And I think that to me, Alonso's biggest problem in the first game was his lack of trust in the MLS players. A guy like AJ De La Garza should not be on the bench. If you're playing a first game against LAFC, a guy like De La Garza should not be on the bench. I understand that Powell is more of he comes from a good team and people expect him to do well, but I've been saying this since forever. MLS is a different beast than everywhere else in the world. And so some players come into MLS and they don't do well because they're not used to the physicality of the sport here.
It's a totally different style of football than you would see anywhere.
And a guy like AJ De La Garza, who's an MLS vet, 3-time MLS Cup champion, he understands that. And I'm not saying he's better than Powell, but I do think in the aspects of MLS alone, he's a much better player, and he understands how to play the game to get the result that they need to get.
And it's funny you say that too, because Powell had an awful performance. I mean, he had one really solid.
No coincidence.
Block. Powell had a really tough game. He wasn't. It didn't seem like he was there mentally, and he showed a lot of lacks in quality, and also focus sometimes too. So, yeah, De La Garza definitely might have been a solid start. I don't think Powell was the reason we lost the game. I will say that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it's interesting. It's important to know. Like, hey, listen, yes, they come from bigger teams, but like you just said, he seemed kind of lost, kind of out of place, because the physicality of MLS is completely different than the physicality of an European.
No, absolutely. But we can talk about Torres and Ben Sweat and all of those, and Ulloa and Trapp, that all have the MLS spirits, that all played really good games.
Yes.
One person that isn't from MLS who actually stepped up to that physicality was Nico Fiegel, our center back, who, I mean, his performance in that game was just phenomenal. And same thing against DC United. Both of those games, Fiegel showed real physicality, real strength, and aggressiveness. He's really quality on the ball. He likes to move forward as a center back, like a Ramos type. He likes to get forward. Mm-hmm. His tackles were solid. He makes really good passes, and he yells, he screams. He's a leader, and he was making sure that our back line was as solid as it possibly could be. And that's something you'd like to see from a younger guy that we had just brought in, who had not played in MLS before, who came from Argentina like some of the other guys. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Fiegel to me was probably our most impactful performer. Not our best, but our most impactful because of his performance.
Yeah. And then we jump ahead a little bit to a week later to DC United, and that was a heartbreak, I think, for you, right?
Oh my God. It was 30 degrees outside, and I was freezing because I'm from here. So I'm up in DC, and I don't have the right clothes, and I'm freezing. But yeah, that was a tough game. I mean, to score on one end, well, let's talk about Pizarro. Pizarro scored right away. Yeah. Great wing play from Lewis Morgan, gets the ball into the box. Pizarro scores, easy finish. And you're like, wow, okay, this is promising. It was like the 4th minute. This is really promising. Our wing play was great. Diego Alonso actually switched the formation from a 4-2-3-1 to a 3-4-3, used Sweat and Nilis as like wing backs, kept them. And I said it in the post-game review, he kept Sweat and Nilis basically on the line, going up and down, defensively and offensively. And it helped a lot. And it led to the Lewis Morgan cross and the Pizarro finish. Yeah. And then we get into the 9 minutes of insanity where Lewis Morgan scores from outside the box. Holy crap, we're up 2-0. We're going to go on and win this game. Because Lewis Morgan scores, the ref gets the opportunity to go to the video assistant referee, go back to a Roman Torres handball that nobody knew actually happened in the stadium. There was no replays shown. There was no communication from the announcer. We had no idea what was going on. We had just seen the ref go like this, and we're like, what's going on? It was really tough. So Roman Torres is shown the red, and we're like, what's going on? And then there was a penalty right after that. Ulloa gives up a penalty. They score. It's 1-1 instead of 2-0. 2 minutes later, if that, they get a free kick. Free kick comes off the post. Robles had it covered, but it comes off the post. Rebound to, I think there's one of their French center backs, and puts it in the top of the net. And we're down 2-1, and that's how the game finished. It was really, really, really tough. I mean, being there and having to witness that, knowing we were playing so well too. And then after that, I mean, your confidence is way down, and it's hard to recover from something like that, especially away from home.
Yeah, for sure.
But overall, it was a solid performance, and you can't be mad at how the players played. You can't be upset with the tactics that Alonso put in because it seemed to be working. There were a lot of chances, just like in the LAFC game. We had a lot of chances on goal. The back line was not as shaky as they were against LAFC. They showed a little bit of improvement from week to week, but there was still a little bit more chemistry that you would have liked to see, and having holding a better line and things like that. Even with 3 at the back, they threw in Andres Reyes, a young Colombian that we signed. So it was Fiegel, Torres, and Reyes for the majority of the game until Torres got the red, and he moved back to 4 at the back. But we would like to see a little more from the back going into the MLS Cup or the MLS tournament, whatever you want to call it.
Mickey Mouse tournament.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that is something to look to because we want to see improvement on the back line.
Well, yeah, and talk a little bit about just how important Alonso has been. Like, what would you rate? I mean, obviously it's 2 games, but what would you say Alonso's impact with Inter Miami has been in this last 2 games?
Well, Alonso is a proven winner. He's shown that by winning the CCL a couple times, by winning the Mexican League a couple times. Alonso is a proven winner, and his tactics have worked in leagues across the world, or I mean, really just south of us. But
yeah, but it's worked.
Diego Alonso, he's a winner, and he has a winner's mentality, and the club was very big on that. I don't think that he was our first choice. I will say that. I think Gallardo was our first choice from River Plate, but we weren't able to get him. But Alonso, I think he's the man for the job. Personally, I like his tactics. He wants to play aggressive, which is really good, and that fits the MLS style of play. You need to be aggressive. You need to push the back lines because they're notoriously weaker than in leagues around the world. So you need to push those back lines. You need to put pressure on them. You don't want to absorb too much pressure. You don't want to play a Mourinho-style football. You want to be able to be on the front foot, and Alonso has shown that he wants to do that. Even against a team like LAFC, we still had all these chances on goal, and that was really good to see. So I think that Alonso, for me, is the man for the job. I think that tactically he has a good mind for the game, and I think it'll translate well into MLS. We just need the chemistry of the players to get there a little bit. I think we have the quality.
Yeah, and I think so. I think so too. I think Inter Miami has a good mixture of both international players and local, quote unquote, not local, but MLS players.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of understanding who's who, and then from there, playing the advantages and understanding that sometimes, a player from MLS might not be as, quote unquote, big as one of these international players that come in, but they will be just as impactful, especially since, like we talked a little bit earlier, they understand how the game works in the United States.
And you could see, I mean, Ben Sweat is a really good example of that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Ben Sweat.
Ben Sweat had come down. I mean, he lost his role in NYCFC before coming here, and instantly he's a starter. That just shows you, his quality, and knowing the MLS is really, really, really important. I think, like you were saying, you really wanted De La Garza to start. You would like to see him start because he's proven MLS quality. With Ben Sweat, we proved it. Maybe on July 8th, we see De La Garza in at right back. We'll see.
Yeah, I will start a Twitter hashtag start De La Garza. Like I don't know. I've always been a fan of his, and so just to see him, it's big to see a player like that get his opportunity to play.
Yeah,
especially in a new team, knowing that he has the opportunity to grow into that position because they don't have, quote unquote, someone set there yet. But it's not just him. Torres is very good as well, and obviously Robas we've been talking about. But to me, I think the biggest surprise for in the first 2 games was definitely the forward Robinson.
Yeah,
he from Clemson. A rookie coming in, thrown in the middle of the fire. It's like baptism by fire. Just throw him in there. It's like, hey, figure this out against LAFC. And he was shaky a little bit. But,
and he seemed timid, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, first game jitters. Imagine that. Don't imagine not just first game jitters in MLS, but first game jitters in MLS with a brand new team who David Beckham owns, and it's a team that has had a lot of international hype.
Yeah.
Now you're the striker for this team, and you're literally fresh out of college. I can see where he kind of got nervous.
And he's proven he's a real quality player. I mean, he was the best collegiate athlete of all the NCAA in any sport. He was named. This guy, he scored goals. He had assists. He was really, really, really good. That Clemson team was really good, but he was the main man. He was scoring goals. Yeah. It didn't translate right away. You don't expect it to, and that's the problem with the MLS Super Draft. It never really translates the way you want it to.
Right.
I don't think you ever see some of those top picks. I mean, there are a couple for sure, but a lot of top picks don't go well into the MLS style of play. We also drafted Dylan Nealis, a right back from Georgetown, who was the captain of that team, and he ended up winning the national championship with Georgetown, and he got slotted in against the game against DC. Powell got dropped at right back. Nealis goes in. Nealis played pretty well for a rookie. I think he played a little better than Robbie Robertson did on that kind of scale.
Oh yeah, first game for sure.
And going back to DC, I think that was a thing for him too, because he played college there. So now he's back in his, college town playing soccer again. So that was kind of a big thing. I think that kind of nodded him to the start. But it's tough because those college kids are thrown, when you throw them right into it and you don't get a chance to develop them, like with a professional team, you don't know what to expect. You have no idea.
For sure. And, in Inter Miami, they played, I want to say 6 new guys. When I say new, I don't mean just like fresh players, but I mean new players of the league. 6 out of the 11 players that played against LAFC were brand new to the league. Obviously, Fiegel, Christian Makun, obviously Pizarro, Pellegrini, Morgan, and Robinson. So these guys aren't, like we just said, they're not used to the fast pace, not even fast pace, but they're not used to like the
more physical.
The physical, that's the word, the physical aspect of MLS. And so, it was a great game. And that's why, to me, when they finished that game and we lost 1-0, I was like, it was a 1-0 loss. But to me, it's positive. It's a positive loss. And never, no loss is ever positive in my opinion. But like this one was, because I literally thought we were going to go in there and just get destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely. I was expecting 4-0, 3-0, 4-1, something like that. But we showed a lot of potential, and I know that the team hasn't been together, and that's a huge variable in all of this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's huge. But then again, it's like that with every single team. So are we actually at a level playing field? I wouldn't say it's level, but I think that their level has been dumbed down a little bit, considering that they were away for so long, and we were also one of the first teams back to full team training.
Yeah.
So that's also a good sign as well.
Yeah, no, I strongly believe that the last 3.5, however long months it's been the great equalizer for teams. So not just for Miami, but for like Nashville as well, who just started as well.
Absolutely.
And teams, they are all now in the same level playing field. Like they haven't been together for a couple of months. What is it going to look like now? And I think it's a perfect segue to jumping into and talking about what we expect from this MLS Is Back tournament. That if they don't call it the Mickey Mouse tournament, I'd be really upset. But it's a 6-team group, the only group that has 6 teams. But we were, like we said, we were drawn Orlando, Chicago, and Philadelphia. So let's just go down the line and see like which teams what do we see from each teams, and things like that. So for obviously July 8th, so in 2 weeks pretty much. The Florida Derby is official. It's been, personally, honestly, completely off topic here, but not really. That to me was fabricated. 100%. That's not a draw.
And it's a good way to come back. I mean, I really think it is. I think that there's definitely a marketing, scheme tactic behind it per se.
Oh yeah.
MLS, I think, has there's a lot of things that in MLS that are supposed to be random and drawn or things like that. But then really it's all just fabricated and all just made up, kind of like the WWE.
To me, the biggest time, the one time for me that MLS, I sat down and said, yeah, this is totally not real. It was when, after the World Cup 2014, Jermaine Jones announced he was coming to MLS. And by the luck of a flip of a coin, the New England Revolution got Jermaine Jones. Like, really?
Yeah.
The luck of a coin?
Yeah. And all that stuff is fabricated. I think even with this year's Super Draft, like I think Nashville had already had a party bus sent out to the defender that they were drafting at the second pick. They had a live stream from his house with Nashville, the owner and the coach and all of them there on draft day. the same time you draft him, but it's supposed to be random and you don't know what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
MLS has a lot of
that. So Orlando, Miami. It's the game that people have been talking about since forever.
Yeah.
It's the game that people wanted to happen. It's the game that people they're dying for. Kind of like we're talking about how MLS quote unquote fabricates things. Like the Orlando New York City FC rivalry is like the most pathetic rivalry in the world.
It's not a rivalry.
It makes just because you play twice a year and you played the first game ever against them, it doesn't make it a rival.
Absolutely not.
And so this is the rivalry that people have been wanting for. Miami versus Orlando.
The fans don't like each other.
Not
at all.
And so it's the game that people have been waiting for. And so now it's finally here, July 8th. I don't know, man. Orlando isn't very good, but they have one of my favorite players in Dom Dwyer. And
who hasn't played yet, though.
Huh?
I don't know he hasn't played. So I don't know what's going on. He didn't
play he's at 3.5 months to play.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't keep up with Orlando, because my allegiance is strong to Miami, but I don't know if he was injured. Same thing with Luis Nani. No idea if he was injured. He just hadn't
Nani
played.
Was hurt. Nani was hurt
too? Okay.
Yeah, Nani was hurt. But
and I know that Nani was a little outspoken about coming back and playing again. I think he's a little nervous about it, which, is definitely valid. So I don't know if we'll see him in Orlando either.
So we got some comments on Twitter by CR7 Billa. He's like, Dom Dwyer is the GOAT. Don't diss
I
him.
love Dom Dwyer. I do.
He's a legend. And I agree with him. Don't diss my boy Dom Dwyer. I've been a fan of his because I've covered Orlando since before they went to MLS. So I covered Orlando when they were in the USL, and Dom Dwyer was loaned to them from Sporting Kansas City, and then he went on this tear of the USL, and then he was sent back to MLS. Orlando made it to the final, and they somehow worked out a deal to bring Dwyer back for the final, and I was there for that final, and Dwyer was just phenomenal.
That's awesome.
Phenomenal. And so. Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Dwyer. And then when Orlando finally signed to go, okay, all right, Orlando, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. But no, I mean, Orlando has never really been a good team.
They've never made the MLS playoffs.
Right. And so it's not like, I'm not saying this because I'm not in Orlando, but it's true. They just, and I have a lot of friends who are from Orlando who follow the Orlando City, and they all agree with me. Like, they're not a very good team. They always find a way they're doing very well for a little bit, and then they find a way to go.
Yeah, exactly. This year specifically, looking back at their games, it was very scrappy.
Yeah.
That was the one note that I had in there that I wanted to make note of, was that it was a scrappy style of play. They're extremely physical and aggressive, but it doesn't translate into good opportunities in the final third ever. Their midfield is not really good at holding possession, and I think that we'll have an advantage there with Trapp and Ulloa, who have been great for us. But their defense was pretty good. I think they drew 0-0 in their first game, and they stopped a lot of opportunities. So all their defenders are pretty big too. So that's something to look for. They're a very physical team. So defensively, we're going to have to find a way to break them down. On their offensive side, I think that our defense is going to do just fine at containing them. They like to shoot the ball a lot, but not from distances that have a high conversion rate per se.
Mm-hmm.
They're shooting a lot from outside the box. They're shooting a lot from just inside the box. They're trying to put swirlers into the top corner a lot, and it was in both games they tried to do that. The one goal that they did score was from Chris Mueller, I believe, and he had been subbed on, fresh legs, ran in between the defenders. They put a nice ball in, and he scored. Yeah. It makes sense. That's something we'll have to look to because our defense was shaky when it comes to players getting in behind and balls over the top or balls on the ground in between the defense. Mm-hmm. So we might have to look out for that. I think Mueller is someone, if Nani and Dwyer don't come back, Mueller is someone we'll have to focus on. I'm sure he'll get the start after being subbed on and scoring, and then the first game having the performance he had. So we'll see. But I think if we're able to control the midfield, which I have no problem in saying that we will do that, controlling the midfield, containing their through balls per se, and making them shoot from where they like to shoot from, we'll be able to break the defense at some point, get a goal. I don't see a high-scoring game. I think it'll be 1-0, maybe 2-1 at the most. But we'll probably walk away with a win. I think we have the quality to do that.
Yeah, but one thing you got to remember is that, they're not a very good team, but they have that experience that we don't have.
That's true.
And that goes for all of these teams, Chicago, Philadelphia as well. Chicago more than all of them because they've been around forever. But these teams have the experience in MLS, and the MLS Is Back tournament might not be a regular MLS game, but it really is. It's gonna be in Disney at the Worldwide of Sports, and it's still the same game. It's not just because you're not having any fans doesn't mean that the style of play of league play changes. It's going to be the same style of play that we are accustomed to.
For sure.
And so, and I honestly, and that's why to me personally, I don't think I think the last team that did really well in the first year was Atlanta. Before Atlanta was Houston. Yeah. But besides those two teams, I can't think of any team that played very well their first season because they kind of understood.
Yeah.
And so it's important to keep that in mind when talking about Miami because they have a really good squad on paper. So did Orlando City first year. Orlando City's first year team was stacked.
Yeah, they had Kaká.
Yeah, and they didn't do anything. But that's also coaching and whatever.
Absolutely.
But
I think this team has the quality, and from the first week to having a somewhat shaky but also positive performance at the same time against LAFC. Yeah. Into DC, you saw improvements. You saw a lot of improvements to the style of play of the MLS, basically. And we were right on par with DC the entire match. We were completely unlucky to walk away with 0 points, let alone 3 points. I really feel like Orlando doesn't, even with the MLS experience and all of that having to be a factor, even with that, someone like Lewis Morgan on the wing is going to shred a defense in the midfield that can't contain him. Yeah. And I think him and Pizarro will shine in this game in the final third.
Yeah. And then moving on to Chicago, they're good, but I just can't get over. I can't get over their logo yet. So like I'm still stuck on the logo.
Yeah, that was a really bad decision. It's awful.
I'm still stuck on the logo to talk about the actual team itself. Like,
well, luckily I looked at the team. Luckily, because we could talk about how terrible the logo is for the next 30 minutes.
I can write a thesis on how bad that logo is. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, 100%. But Chicago's not good. They're not. They have a lot of new faces that are trying to gel. I think they have a new coach this year as well. Their back line is the complete opposite from Orlando's. They're extremely sloppy. I mean, they gave up 5 real good goal-scoring opportunities against Seattle in the first 25 minutes of the game. I mean, it was hard to watch. If I was a Chicago fan, I'd be hurt watching that game. It was not a good performance. Seattle should have walked away with 5 goals at the minimum in that game when you go back and rewatch it. I think they had 16 shots and like 12 on target. It's some crazy number that shouldn't happen with a good defense, with a professional defense, I should say. It'll be another game where we're going to have to shine in the final third and take over the midfield. Lewis Morgan is going to have to show us some creativity like he did in the first couple of games. Pizarro is going to have to be Pizarro, be that flashy style player, be that guy who creates and is able to get a shot for himself, and we'll be just fine against Chicago. They are decent on the counter. They do have some pace on the wings, which is something that we'll have to look at because we were talking about the wing backs earlier with Sweat and De La Garza. Who's going to be that right back? Who's going to be the one to hold down the wing? So that's something we'll have to look for. And in both their games, I noticed that they opened up really, really widely. Like the midfield play was just non-existent. It was ball going forward, possession in the final third, ball going forward, possession in the final third, that kind of play where it's like drawn out and you're trying to score a goal for whatever reason. Yeah. The quality lacked in the final of those games, and I don't know if it was due to stamina or just tactically that's what they were going for. But if we can be solid for 90 minutes, I think that we'll have no problem seeing out this game and getting 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all assumptions right now, but yeah.
No, definitely. I'm making some pretty bold predictions. I can't lie, but I just
out of the two that we talked about so far, I see Miami winning against Chicago more than Orlando. I just think Orlando's they're gonna take this game as a pride game. They're gonna take this game for it's for bragging rights for all these times that they talk trash about how Miami doesn't have a team. Now they finally do. Now it's time to nut up or shut up. And so Orlando's gonna have to actually play. And because they know if they lose,
this is a must-win game for most teams. It's the open of the Mickey Mouse Cup. It's the opening game. You are in a group that you have no idea what's going to happen because there's 6 teams and you don't know. You really just don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You have to win the first game, and I think these teams they're going to go. They're going to go for it. They're going to go all out.
I know, and I think, and that's why to me one of the reasons why I believe that Orlando might actually come on top in this one. But because they come on top on this one, Miami's going to come back strong with a vengeance against a not very good Chicago team, and just pummel them out of there.
So you have I guess the thesis, the whole entire thing for this show is you're going to have the realistic expectations, and I'll have the fan expectations.
Probably. It sounds like what's happening right now.
You're going to keep me humble about the team.
I don't think they're going to win every single game.
No, yeah, but I do think Orlando is very winnable, and Chicago more so. I think
Chicago 100%. Chicago.
I just really want us to beat Orlando so badly. Just so badly because of that rivalry and knowing what it would mean for South Florida football as a whole. We have to win that game. I
mean, Orlando's already still taking shots at Miami
they have been before we were even a team. I was at the All-Star game in 2019, and I was looking around and I see a bunch of pink and black and flares going up inside the stadium. I'm like, oh my God, Inter Miami's here. Before we even announced anything, a coach, a player, they were all there at the game, summer or I guess early fall. Not sure when the game was, but
I was there. I remember
we took over the stadium, and Inter Miami fans were loud and chanting against Orlando, and that was cool to see. So the rivalry is definitely real. It's not some made up NYCFC Orlando stuff. It's a real rivalry. Even though we haven't played each other, right now it's just fans against fans, and then on July 8th. Player versus player.
Yeah, and that's when it happens. And then the other team we kind of haven't talked much about so far is the Union. They've been a lot in the news lately, not because of soccer, but they've been in the news lately with KD becoming a minority owner of the team.
That's true.
So people kind of know what the Union are, but I personally haven't watched a Union game this season. You literally saw all the games again this last couple of days.
Yeah.
So tell me. Because I have an opinion of the Union from last year, and so I don't know if it's the same as this year, and so I don't want to say anything crazy. So just lay it out on me.
The first thing I noticed was just like Chicago and Orlando, that midfield play wasn't as strong. Going forward, though, their attackers are extremely creative. I mean, extremely creative, and I can't remember his name.
Fafa Cole.
No, not Pico. It was, I think his name's Aronson. He's a young guy. He's 19 years old. Just came into the league. And then they also have Bedoya and another striker who scored a worldie of a goal. I think his last name is Santos. He scored a worldie of a goal against LAFC. They have a lot of talent up front that we're going to have to look for. This is probably the game that I have the least hope in, because I know what they can do on the offensive side of the ball. I know that Vela and Rossi against us was a tandem that we couldn't contain. We were getting beat a lot, and that could happen again against Philly. But their midfield was weak. I will say that if they're not going to have the opportunity to get balls going forward, that could be good for us.
I mean, I've always thought they had a strong team. Bedoya is very good. Again, it goes back. I talk about this all the time. You're gonna get annoyed of it, but it's to me, it's all about experience when it comes to MLS, and Bedoya has it.
Yeah,
Bedoya has that.
Absolutely.
I'm a little biased. I actually know Fafa Picoult from his time at the Strikers, so
Gotcha.
I've seen him play before. we're not best friends, but like we're acquaintances, and so
Yeah.
I see him like, oh, dude, he's great. I love seeing him tear it up in MLS. It's something that we talked about when he was in Fort Lauderdale. Like his goal was to one day get there, and he finally did. And so it's nice to see that happen. But again, this is a team that I think could cause problems.
100%.
They're a strong team. They're not out of the three that we're playing. They're the strongest.
Oh, by far. And I think it's not even close. I've got to be honest with you. I don't think it's even close. They have a lot more quality than Orlando and Chicago. One thing I noticed though too, Andre Blake has always been a really solid goalkeeper in MLS. In his past couple of years, the first two games, I gotta say, it wasn't the Andre Blake of old.
Yeah, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
It didn't seem like Andre Blake that we all know. I love Andre Blake as a player. I really do. I think he's probably one of my favorite MLS keepers, other than Robles. I don't know. If we can somehow get on the front foot in this game, and I think, like I've been saying, it's gonna come down to midfield play in every single one of these games. I think we will have a chance to let's take shots at him. Let's go out. Lewis Morgan loves himself a long shot. Let's take him. Let's put him to work. Let's make him make saves. And I think that'll be something to look for in that game. But that'll be the hardest of the three for sure.
Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think, again? Obviously, from what we've been talking about, I feel like you believe that Miami will win out, get 9 points, and move on.
I think that is a possibility. And I don't think that's a crazy thought. Really realistically, I think we'll win 2 out of the 3. I think we'll win against Orlando and Chicago. I don't think we'll have problems. But against Philly, I'd like to see us get a draw. That's my probably most realistic hope. Obviously, we want to win, but realistically, a draw would be good. And I think 7 points would probably have us move on, whether it be in the top 2 or as that one of those 4 third-place teams. Right. I'm so confused because I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how this 6-team group – I think it puts us at a real disadvantage. Luckily, I think we have good matchups with Orlando and Chicago, and I think that's 2 games that are winnable by a large margin.
Yeah.
But I have to see how this is going to turn out. I don't know if I really like being in the 16 group. I definitely don't like it, and I don't like the idea of even having one. I think they should have went about it in some other way that I can't think of right now, but I would come up with. But we'll see. I have high hopes for this team to move on to the knockout tournament. And I think getting to the knockout tournament is a huge step for the club in its entirety. I mean, it'll be one of the franchise's biggest steps ever. Yeah. So,
I mean, what do you think? Like, who do you think is at the end of the day is going to win this tournament?
Gosh, that's a tough question. I would say LAFC. I really would. They're too good. Honestly, Villa.
Here's the thing, though: the beauty of knockout anything can happen. Anything can happen,
of course. But here's the thing: a team like LAFC has that CONCACAF Champions League experience. So if you want to talk about like the MLS experience, let's talk about a tournament style experience.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And LAFC's in the playoffs every year. They know what it's like to play in those kinds of games. They know what it's like to play in a Champions League game against a team they've never seen before, and things like that. So I think that experience will definitely help them. And Vela is going to put on some kind of masterclass. I'm sure of it.
I honestly, as a realist looking in, I see Miami getting into the knockout stages. I see them being able to make that move into, becoming a team that people talk about. Yeah, they're brand new and everyone's already talking about them anyways because of everything going on around them, because of who they are, what it took to get to where they are today. But they're not a bad team. I've certainly seen a lot of worse expansion franchises in my lifetime.
Nashville for one. I don't.
Yeah, I've seen plenty. Yeah, and Miami is not in the top of the worst. They're there in the middle. They can actually play. They have good talent. They don't have flashy players. They didn't make flashy signings. They made the signings that I believe are what's going to make them stronger in the future.
And that's something you have to really credit to Paul McDonough. He did the same thing with Atlanta. When he built Atlanta, nobody knew who these guys were.
Exactly.
Nobody knew who Joseph Martinez was or Ezekiel Barco, and look at them now.
And that's one of the reasons I love that signing by Miami. Bringing a guy in from Atlanta that understands how to play the game in the office side of things.
Oh yeah.
It's not about bringing in a Luis Suarez to sell jerseys and sell tickets. It's about bringing in a guy like Pellegrini, who not many people know who he is, but he's a young talent that can be a very good player. It's about bringing in a Pizarro who does have that talent and has that credibility for fans of Central American soccer. So if you're a Barcelona fan or a Real Madrid fan and that's all you are, you're not going to know who he is. And they don't care because that's the kind of guy that they want to bring in and create the kind of the atmosphere of an Atlanta, bring in like a Martinez type of guy, and then see what happens and let the game speak for itself.
Yeah,
because as the old saying goes, ball don't lie. So
that's true.
If you're gonna play, you play. It's not about having a Kaká or having a Thierry Henry. It's about having the players that at the end of the day are going to get you the positive results to move forward.
Absolutely, and that's Paul McDonough, I think, has done great with us. And I know we've lost the first 2 games, but he's always talked about in his mentality he needs to get talent. It doesn't have to do right away. It doesn't have to do what team needs at all. You get the talent and you develop it and you build around that. I think we saw that definitely in the super draft by drafting Robbie Robinson. We could have went somewhere else. I really think we could have. It could have been, Daryl Dike or someone like that. But we got the most talented guy in the draft, and we're going to look to develop him for the future, or in the next month, let's say. We kind of need to. We don't know if Julian Carranza is coming back yet. So, but yeah, thank goodness we brought in Paul McDonough. I think that was great by Jorge Mas and Beckham to bring him in and have him build the team. And hopefully it'll turn out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because a lot of people at the start of this whole thing, and by whole thing I mean Inter Miami, they thought Beckham would take care of everything, but it's not. It'd be like Michael Jordan taking care of the Wizards the way he did, and then you'd grab like a Kwame Brown, or whatever, and then that's all you got.
Yeah.
So it was smart. It was a smart move by them to understand. Hey, listen, just because I'm David Beckham doesn't mean I can do what I think I can, and I'm going to bring exactly. He has a Rolodex, and then Paul goes out and calls those people. That's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. He knows how to talk, and he knows how to bring people in, and having both those guys for our future to see out this club is going to be huge.
Yeah. And it's to me, as a person who's followed South Florida soccer for a while, this is a complete 180 from the old striker days of when I don't know if you followed them back when they were here, but when they brought in Ronaldo as an owner, and everyone thought Ronaldo would take over and do everything, and he did, and he ran it to the ground.
Yeah, we went into financial ruin.
Exactly, and so it's seeing Beckham do the complete opposite of it is a breath of fresh air, and it's nice to see that happen. And it's a good squad. I don't want you or people listening thinking, oh man, Pedro here doesn't like them. Like they're not my number one favorite team in the world, I do like them, and so I do think that it's gonna take time to grow into it because. It's weird. American sports to me is sometimes weird because I come from Brazil, and so I'm grown into a soccer team. Like you're born into a team, and that's your team. This is like a brand new team that just randomly was created. So now I got to create that like fan them for it, or at least understand them and like them to the point of like, yeah, I know they're my team, but it's hard to even in any other team in the U.S. like when it comes to soccer, it's hard to pick a team and say, oh, that's my team because. Not really like,
where's the connection? And
exactly.
I think it's good. South Florida is known for its crazy diversity and how many different cultures we have, especially having to do with the Hispanic side of things. And, we love soccer down here. But we haven't had a chance in however long it's been since the fusion to have a real professional team on the highest level of soccer in America to play for us, to play in our backyards. It is going to be hard to grow that connection, especially now because it's been so distant. We've only had the first 2 games, and we're bringing in guys that people have no idea who they are. So it's going to take effort from people to be fans. But once they start winning, or if they ever start winning, I hope they do. It'll be easy for, I think, South Florida fans to jump on board because we already have a rich soccer culture down here, and I think that winning matters. And
we can't forget the classic Miami fan who likes to go to teams that win.
Yeah,
a team starts winning, Miami stadiums start filling.
Exactly,
that's a fact. I don't know how to say it. And so
Dolphins, the Heat, the Hurricanes, all of those teams, if they're not winning, nobody's going to be there.
Exactly. Like, I love the Marlins. I go to Marlins games. I went to like at least 10 Marlins games last year. I was like 1 out of 10 people there.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I love it. But get them started and win, people are going to show up.
They're going to fill up that stadium. Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that Inter Miami, I believe, understands is that, hey, listen, we have to start winning. And by winning, it's not about bringing in the big name players. It's about bringing in players, like I said, that will help us get to that point. And that's what I think what they're doing right now.
And it was so twisted to start off because we had all these expectations of us to bring in a Messi, a Ronaldo, a Suarez, a James, a Cavani, whatever. Where did those expectations come from? Okay, maybe Beckham had a little bit to do with it because he's a profile name that does have the context. So people started to speculate on that. And that's why I think the Paul McDonough design, and going back to that, is so great because this man knows how to get talent for the MLS and win games in MLS. And yes, big name players are important, but if they're not putting numbers on the stat sheet and getting us 3 points game in and game out and giving us a chance to run for a trophy, it doesn't matter who we have.
Yeah.
I mean, to an extent. If Ronaldo's here, everyone's going to show up, but Ronaldo's not going to get here.
But here's the thing. I strongly believe that even if Ronaldo was here, okay, let's just hypothetically say Miami got Ronaldo. If Miami lost every single game, people would not show up by the end. Like, you had a Kaká. Like, he is like in Orlando, and by the end of the year, nobody was there.
I'm not going to say Kaká isn't great, but
watch yourself.
I love Kaká. I really do. But I think Ronaldo is obviously on another level. Ronaldo and Messi are like untouchable in the soccer world.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, bringing R9 to the strikers, you thought it was going to be something that, would be great for the club and people would show up. And it was just a marketing thing. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. I think Ronaldo has a little bit, Ronaldo he's only 34 or 33 and he's still balling out in the Serie A, but I don't know. I want us to win so badly.
Yeah.
And I know that big profile names are important, but I know winning is a lot more important, especially to the culture down here and what we've been accustomed to.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree 100%. And I think that this tournament that MLS is putting together is going to be a good start for fans to be able to see what it's all about. And it's a shame. It's really a shame because, the things that they were planning to do is obviously aren't happening anymore. So, they were kind of waiting to unveil the main sponsor. That wasn't able to happen. They were waiting to unveil the black jerseys, which were probably the best looking jerseys I've seen in a while. On the first game against the Galaxy, they're not going to be able to do that. So now they're going to do all these things behind closed doors, and you're going to be able to watch them on TV, but it's not going to be the same.
It's not the same. It's never the same. And we lose that, but we also have been deprived from live sports for so long that any product that's put out, I think everyone's going to latch onto it for 100%.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that Miami has a chance of moving on to the knockout stages. And again, like we mentioned, we've been talking about it for the last almost hour. It's like whatever happens in knockout stages happens. You don't know what's going to happen in the knockout stages.
No, you have no idea. We don't know what's going to happen in the group stages. Everybody's been away from soccer for so long. We don't know how teams are going to look. I can look at these past 2 games that everybody's played, but I have no idea how Orlando's going to play.
And that's a big thing. Yeah, these players, how many, and this is honestly just like thoughts, like random thoughts, like how do you know these players have been staying fit? They've been training, right? But like, what have they been doing? So once it's one thing to train and it's one thing to be with other people and playing at a high level.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, these guys can be training, but put them in a high level experience, like game, they might start lagging. And that's what. And I remember when I was watching the Bundesliga game, that's what one thing they mentioned. They said, "Listen, these players are lagging; they're slow, but that's expected. It's been 3 months since they played together.
Yeah.
It's been 3 months since they played professional soccer, and so yeah, it's going to happen. But it's just a matter of getting. And that to me is one of the things that's going to probably shy people away from it as well. If people just judge it based on the first couple of games."
Yeah.
If people that don't follow soccer watch the first couple of games and see slow players, lagging players, people falling on the floor, getting hurt all the time, every single stereotype of soccer comes back, and that's not what we want. We want people to enjoy the game, not having to worry about that. So it's gonna be an interesting couple of months for sure.
And FIFA and the MLS itself, like they're incorporating the water breaks, they're incorporating now the 5 substitutions, which is huge. I mean, that it's always been 3. Ever since I've known soccer, it's been 3. But having a chance to bring on 5 people, bring on more fresh legs for half the people on the field, that'll be huge too. And I think that was a way to combat exactly what you were talking about, the sluggish play, tired legs, halfway through the game or whatever it is. That was their way of combating that and making sure that there's a good product on the field.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, I think that wraps it up for today.
That was quite a lot of content. Let me say.
Yeah, we just went on about this Mickey Mouse Cup, which I hope that ends up being called Mickey Mouse Cup. MLS, make it happen. But yeah, no, I mean, it's exciting times. MLS is finally back. We're gonna be able to have a show that we can talk exclusively MLS and soccer in general when that becomes a thing. But for right now, we're trying to focus a little bit on Inter Miami and getting people the content that they are looking for. Clearly there are people out there that are wanting this content, that people want to listen to it, and so why not just go out there and give it to the people what they want?
Absolutely. Let's be those guys that people want to listen to for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
Other than Vamos Inter, I think that does it.
Awesome. And yeah, guys, just stay in touch with the 5 Reasons Network Twitter accounts, any social media really, to check out when our next show is.
Check out the written content too.
Check out the written content, yes, and we'll be covering the entire tournament in Miami, in Orlando. If you also want to follow the 90 Minutes Strong on social media, it's all 90 Minutes Strong. It's right there below us. We'll also give you guys some information there too. But we're pretty much the same. We've synced. If you followed me for any period of time, you see that the logo stays the same. The only thing that changes is we put the 5 Reason Network right in the middle because that's what we wanted to do. We want to have good synergy, so that's what we're doing right now. And so the same content you get from 90 Minutes Strong, you're going to get from 5 Reasons and vice versa. So that's a really exciting part. And we get a guy like Austin here who knows clearly everything that needs to be known about Inter Miami. Yeah. So that's also a big win.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Guys, this is going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you do look out for us. We're going to have a bunch of content coming and hope you guys enjoy it. Shout out to Pedro, too. He's done a great job of keeping this all together and organized for me. Yeah, 5 Reasons, 90 Minutes Strong. Keep a lookout.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.